I'm sure you've heard about the volatility in the stock market, but are you aware of Paul Tudor Jones, the founder of Tudor Investment Corporation? This guy manages one of the largest hedge funds in the world. He's been unbelievable with his predictions. His net worth is $7.5 billion and his fund $13 billion. He was just being interviewed on CNBC last week, and here's what he said about Bitcoin.
From the beginning, I've always said I want to have a small allocation to it because it's a great tail event. It's the only thing that humans can adjust the supply in. So I'm sticking with it. I'm going to always stick with it as just a small diversification in my portfolio.
He said, I want to have a small diversification in my portfolio because it is a great tail end event. It's the only thing humans can't adjust the supply in. That's why he's sticking with it. And he says he's always going to stick with it. Now, even more interesting, here's a clip of what he said 2 years ago about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin has a lot of the characteristics of being an early investor in a tech company. And I didn't realize it until after, unfortunately, I came on your show and got besieged. I like Bitcoin even more now than I did then. I think we're in the first inning of Bitcoin.
He says Bitcoin is like investing in an early stage tech company. He likes it even more now than he did back then. 3 years ago, believe it or not, 3 years ago, he was also being interviewed on CNBC about Bitcoin.
COVID happened and the great monetary inflation happened, and that made me begin to think about how do you want to be positioned in your portfolio going forward. So that's really what tripped my interest in Bitcoin.
And what he said is, look, when COVID hit, the great inflation came, and he decided to evaluate his portfolio and make adjustments based on how he wanted to position himself.
When I think of stores of value, I think of it four ways: purchasing power, trustworthiness, liquidity, and portability. What I do know is that every day that goes by and Bitcoin survives, the trust in it will go up. Every bull market, every single bull market has one common thread: an ever-expanding universe of people who own it. So there's probably, the estimates are between 55 and 70 million people own Bitcoin. We really, if you're buying Bitcoin, your bet is that number's going to go to 120 million or to 200 million. And it's kind of hard when you look around and you see that the world's becoming increasingly digitized, not to think that the preponderance of evidence at this point in time doesn't point in that direction.
He said, when I think of Bitcoin, I think of it as a store of value. So you got to consider its purchasing power, its trustworthiness, its liquidity, and portability. Try moving 5,000 tons of gold across the ocean. Every day Bitcoin survives, it becomes more trustworthy. The world is becoming digitized. He said if you're buying into Bitcoin, you're expecting user adoption to go from 50 million to 200 million. And that was 3 years ago. Guess where we're at today? We're at 200 million unique users of Bitcoin. That number is projected to go to 1 billion over the next 3 years. So forget what I say, forget what everybody's saying. If you just look at what Paul Tudor Jones is saying, one of the wealthiest men in the world, one of the smartest investors, one of the most phenomenal at predicting the markets, he's saying, look, not only is technology and innovation driving people to Bitcoin and user adoption is increasing, but he said it's going to be the fastest horse in the race. And from what I can see, not only do we have the Bitcoin halving cycle coming up in 12 months, we've got regional banks, which are set to fail or implode. We've got a low liquidity environment, a Fed that's going to need to step in and ease, right? Print more money. It is the perfect storm for Bitcoin to launch into a bull market heading into 2024. So with the Bitcoin halving cycle, regional banks up against the ropes, I mean, they're starting to fail. Now countries like Russia, the BRICS nations, and people, they're all looking for an alternative form of currency. I think this bodes well for Bitcoin going into 2024. I think we may have the perfect storm for a Bitcoin bull market heading into 2024. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and post a comment below. Thanks and have a blessed day.